Hello, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to my second interview on my channel, The Power of Fight. Today, I'm incredibly excited to introduce our special guest. He's a dear friend of mine since grade school. His name is TJ Kiss. TJ holds a significant place in my heart, and he embodies the true essence of my channel, The Power of Fight. So today we are going to embark on an exploration of the extraordinary journey of TJ's fight. We'll dive into his experiences as a devoted parent to a son with nonverbal autism, understanding the emotions he navigates daily and the profound impact it has had on all aspects of his life. We'll also dive into the unwavering determination and drive that motivated TJ to transform a childhood passion that we both shared into reality, filmmaking. TJ has already created some remarkable projects, which we'll discuss, and he is currently setting the stage for even more in the future. So, TJ, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's great pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure for sure. So, before we begin, I just want to tell a quick story of how my first memory of TJ. Now,
Okay.
TJ came to, so we grew up in a town around 30 minutes outside of Manhattan, give or take, traffic on the Hudson River. And I remember we were at school. Washington Irving was our school, and TJ came in fifth
hmm
grade. He was new there to school in fifth grade. And I remember the school under us, how the schools were broken down in New York. It was second and third was in their own school, and then fourth, fifth, and sixth was in their own school. And the third grade class came to visit that day, and we're walking down the stairs, my class, which TJ's in, and the third grade class is walking by us. And this little girl at a third grade class runs up and goes, "Shut up, TJ." And I look, and TJ turns around and starts going right back after her. And I soon would learn that was his sister. But I'll never forget that because TJ's new at the school. We're walking down. He's new there, and in front of everyone, he's yelling at his little sister right back. And I remember thinking in my head as a kid, I was like, "Man, this guy's got a chutzpah," and that's a Yiddish word. Exactly, Yiddish words mean just extreme confidence, even somewhat audacity. And I said to myself, I was like, "I want to be friends with this guy." I never liked boring people. I always liked someone who had character. And TJ embodies character, and we hit it off immediately. Of course, we had big personalities, so at first we butted heads a little, but as soon as we clicked, it was we were always. I remember we go to school, then we play at each other's house after school, and then while doing
hmm
our homework, we'd be on the phone watching the Knicks game or the Yankees game, talking about sports constantly.
Uh-huh.
And so fast forward 31 years later, because I believe it was like I was 10 or however old you are in like fifth grade. Uh, so here we are. So it's a pleasure, man, to have you on. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is pretty cool what you're doing here.
Oh, well, thank you, man. So I want to dive, right in.
hmm
So I'm a parent myself, and what you have to deal with is something that I look at, and my heart goes out to you. But really, can you share with us a bit about your journey as a parent to a child with nonverbal autism? Like what were some of the initial challenges you face, and how has your perspective really evolved over time from you kind of just being thrown into a situation like that?
Right. Well, so the first part is really just coming to grips with the fact that what you were expecting and what a lot of what you were hoping for or sort of banking on, planning on, is going to be different than what you were expecting or what most people are going to experience. And that's not so easy to do right off the bat. It took me quite a few years to really come to grips with it and not have all those moments where you start pitting yourself for some reason,
Yeah.
which at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about in my case about him. It's about Tommy.
Yeah.
So that's changed a lot. My perspective has changed on that a lot. Where, I'm not worried about the fact that I'm not having to catch with him, or that he's not said dad or mom or any of that stuff. It's stuff that I want, but it's my wife actually says it's better. She wants to hear him say that so badly, but she doesn't
Yeah.
even want to hear it for her. She wants it for him because she knows that's going to be something that's going to only enrich and enhance his life. And that's become our major focus is not thinking about all the things that have to do with us, because it really doesn't matter. It's about doing everything we can to have him set up to have the best life that he possibly can have.
Yeah,
And
man,
luckily, he's a very happy guy, so that helps.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I know, like you know, you want to hear him say dad and mom, and that that's so heartbreaking on another level. But what were just kind of when you first were jumping into this, what was your the biggest like initial challenges like I know I asked you that, but was it the nonverbal thing, or was it just like more mental on your part, being like, man, why this happened to me? Or was it did it really just evolve over time, just your understanding of it?
Well, I think really it's funny how you. So my wife and I basically, when we got the diagnosis, and we kind of knew for a while beforehand, we could see the signs. You do your research and stuff like that, and you wanted to have a neurotypical kid. Not that you thought that way, but that's what you wanted. That's what you were hoping for. That's what you were planning. Um, so then to have to take this different path. But one of the things that was interesting is how my wife went from being just who she is to being like a expert in the field, like completely dove right into studying everything she could about it. And that was her way at the time of dealing with her, trying to control the situation as best she could, which was to educate herself and try to make herself the best possible parent that she could to a child with special needs. The thing that you mentioned is definitely something that I had to battle with, which was my own thoughts and the woe is me and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And it's interesting how the things tie in together, because when I started writing and thinking about trying to pursue some filmmaking as a passion, that's when my mentality started changing. That woe is me mentality started to melt away pretty quickly. And I think it's because I gave myself something else to obsess over, as opposed to obsessing over why I'm not going to get the stuff that I wanted out of being a parent, which is selfish. But you don't think that at the time.
No.
In retrospect, you're thinking like, it's I kick myself for being like that, but also, you're a human. I mean, it's hard. It's hard on everybody. It's not easy to just, make the right decision every single time and know how you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to handle things when you're not experiencing it. You're not sure.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that, because like when I first got diagnosed, and I kept kicking myself. I'm like, what did I do? What did I do that God's punishing me? Or how what did I do in my life that caused this? And then eventually you just have to you just break down. You realize this is a hand I was dealt, and I got to make the best out of it, and keep going forward. But
Yeah.
so I know I want you, just because if for people who don't really or aren't familiar with it, can you really just explain what nonverbal autism is, and how does it differ from like other forms of autism?
Well, that's the funny thing about autism is it's hard to really describe it to someone, because it varies so differently between each individual. That's why they call it the spectrum, because
Yeah.
you can be all over the map. Um, in my particular case, so my son Tommy, again, he is nonverbal. He is not mute or anything like that, and he makes plenty of noise. But no words. Words have slipped out. For example, the other day, hi slipped out when he and I were looking at his little brother Bobby,
That
and I
must have
was
felt
saying
pretty cool.
Hi Bobby, and all of a sudden I hear hi, and I look over and I'm like, and then he didn't repeat it because it just slipped out, but the words are there. It's just all scrambled up. So, and then like many children with autism, he has a lot of we call them stims, but tics, or however you want to describe it. But essentially, do that are not atypical.
Yeah.
For my son particularly, he's a big spinning guy. So he likes to take, like, pajama pants, he'll spin them around. Um, baby's toys now. So all of
Or-
his little brother's toys, he's grabbing, oh, yeah, I can spin
yeah,
that
it's
around.
spinning around. There we
Um,
go.
but it's something that at least we believe is something that, like, when his body gets overstimulated, he can't regulate it. And that's a way that he can help to regulate it, because it's kind of maintains
Oh
his
yeah.
focus and energy in one spot. Um,
Is that
but yeah,
something
it's
that
hard to
kind
just.
of, oh, is that something that kind of just recently started, like
I'm
the
sorry.
spinning? Oh, sorry.
No, he's kind of always done that. Um, with different whatever it might be. It's just
Okay.
like it doesn't matter what you give him. If you give him that, he'll do that.
Okay.
I remember we got him once because he had some issues with biting when he was like 3-ish. So we got him like this is like a shark's tooth. It looks like it's a rubber shark's tooth, and they're supposed to like take it and the kid can bite it if they feel the urge to do that. Um, and so my wife put it around his neck, and he looked at it, and he looked at her, and he took it off, and, and he looked at her like, "No, mom, this is not what this is for. They're supposed to do this with this." So, um, it's funny. Um, but so it is a difficult thing to try to describe what it's like because my experience could be completely different from experiences of other people. I mean, we see it with the people that we've met and interacted
Yeah.
with school, and working with our BCBA and the families that she works with. They're all every kid is so different. They have
Yeah.
some things that are similar, but so different. It's so hard to describe.
So you mentioned school. Tell me a little about that because I know with Eddie, my son, like his going to school was very similar to how we went. What's it like for Tommy? What's it like for you guys? What kind of school does he go to? Like how did that whole process really play out from
So
taking
he
him from the house to education system?
mhm. So he's in special education. It's uh, ABA driven classes, so it's a lot of repetition and stuff like this to teach. Um, he does speech therapy, OT, PT. He's grown immensely since being in school. Um, and so, in addition to just the school, we also so when you first get diagnosed, you can get assistance from the government. So we that,
Yeah.
and it was called early intervention. And we had a BCBA behavioral therapist come to the house. She had a team of people that all worked with him. So he's basically been in school since he was like a year and a half because they
Okay.
would come in. We have a room in the house set up where that's his classroom. And he knows when he goes in there, it's time to do some work, whether he likes it or not, which he
Yeah.
usually does not.
No kid
But
does.
he knows it's time to do work, and then that's what we do in there. And it's great because that behavioral therapist who was our team leader, she also became our private BCBA
Okay.
therapist school and was no longer getting early intervention at home. So now we've been working with her for, almost 6 years now, with Tommy. And, we'll have programs that we run at home with him that she runs as well. That we work with the school on and say, this is, so we go to the school with all kinds of data to
Yeah.
say, this is what we're seeing at home. And then we can work closer with the school as far as what they're doing, and we can sort of intertwine our education so that we're make sure that we're both on the same page. So if they're teaching words in school, we're going to teach those same
Oh,
words at
nice.
home, or sounds, or whatever it might be, to try and get it better. And that, I think, is one of the reasons such a big swing in Tommy since diagnosis to now, where to me, it seems like his biggest issue is the verbal. If he
Verbal.
could get words out, I feel like his other big issue, which can be his frustration level.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, if you can't
Oh,
express
yeah.
yourself verbally to people,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I-
even when I can talk verbally and somebody's not understanding me, I'm ready to lose my mind.
oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So if we can do that, I think that frustration level is going to go way down, and then the behaviors, again, that should also go down as well. So, that's the hope, that's the drive, that's what you, as you say, fight. That's what you fight for,
Yeah.
is to try to get there. And then if it never does, it never does.
Yeah.
But this is your child; like, you're not going to just
Yeah.
stop. You're going to fight as possibly can to try to give him the best possible life.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So the school, did you guys decide, okay, well, we're gonna mirror what he's doing at school at home to try, double up on it, or were they like, well, here's a specific regimen we want you to follow as well?
Well, so it was kind of because it was a school. Also, they have things that they do,
Yeah,
and this is what we do, and this is what we believe in. It doesn't always align with
yeah,
how we look at things.
yeah,
So we do our best. So, like, for example, like if we're working on sounds, like trying to get him to say or puh, puh, one of those sounds. Then
Yeah.
it makes no sense if they're working on the puh sound and we want to work on the M sound. We'll just work on the puh sound too. And then once that's down, then we move on to another sound. But there's no sense in us working on different ones just for, because we feel like we want to do that right now. Like, if
Exactly.
that's what they're going to do, then we can just do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for the most part, what we want to do isn't so far apart that it's insane or anything like
Yeah.
that. We run the same kind of programs that they kind of do, just in different ways sometimes, different
Right.
reinforcers, different ways of reinforcing.
Yeah.
But it's a different situation when
Yeah.
you're a parent working with your child as opposed to a teacher working with your child. And
Yeah.
generally it's because as the parent, you are going to get the worst
Oh yeah, they don't
behavior out of
listen.
that child. So you
Uh,
might be sitting there pulling your head out,
yeah.
pulling your hair out of your head, wondering why are you not getting this and why are you not trying? And it's like I think back to when I was a kid, and it's like my dad was trying to get me to do something. When my penmanship was so bad, and my dad made me write
Yeah.
my ABCs
Good old Mr.
100
Kiss.
times, or write numbers one through nine,
Yeah.
0 through 9,
Yeah.
100 times, and I would just go 0 0 0 0 0 1 1
Yeah.
1 1
Yeah.
1.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't try, you know what I
No,
mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Because it's my
Like
dad. Now, if I
whatever.
had to do it for school, maybe I would have put a little bit more effort in. But
Yeah.
so it's the same thing with him.
Yeah. Nice. So I know you spoke about your wife a lot, and I know relationships are hard as it is. How has this dynamic, really played into your relationship with your wife and even your relationship with your family on a broader spectrum?
So the relationship with my wife it's definitely brought us a lot closer. And that's not to say that, I mean, it's not difficult at times because
Yeah.
it can be a very stressful experience.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we both want the same things. And
Yeah.
also, I've known my wife we were just talking about this for almost half our lives now, almost 20 years. We were really close friends at time before we ever got romantically involved. So it's not like any other relationship I've been in because it really is like, your best friend, she was like my best friend before we started dating. So now it's just we're married, we're still best friends, we're in love and always will be, all that good stuff. Um,
Beautiful.
so while this has definitely, been difficult to handle at times, that bond together is what's kept us good. And again, it's brought us closer together because we kind of are, it's a different dynamic because, and it feels wrong to say this, but it is also, I feel like it just is kind of true. Like, people who don't have children with special needs, they'll tell you, I get it, I understand,
Yeah.
and it's like I know that you want to, but until you're really there,
Yeah.
like you're like, I thought I kind of knew what it would be like, but no
Yeah.
idea. And it's not to say that it's so terrible or anything like that, or my life is so awful.
Yeah.
It's just very, very different. And so now we have our new baby Bobby, who thus far, I mean, looks fantastic, and no signs of anything. But like we talk about this too, and it's like I don't know how to raise
Yeah.
a neurotypical child. Like I don't know what that's like. So that's
Yeah.
like it's like a whole new world that we're entering now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next is how, so now you have your new child and everything, and you're experiencing, that side of it. Yet, I mean, tell me just a little about that. Like, if you're expecting something or if something is like, or how they interact. I mean, if you could just go through that a little bit, I'd love to hear it.
So there's a lot of things that Bobby does that Tommy did not.
Okay.
Like Bobby is about 8 months old now, almost. Or no, just over 8 months old now,
Okay.
and he's cruising around on his walker, and we're seeing literally interested in everything. He's grabbing anything he can get his hands on, and it's like Tommy. I don't remember Tommy being super interested in grabbing everything like that, and like Bobby, no matter what it is, he comes and tries to eat food out of your mouth. If you're
Yeah.
holding him and you eat food and you're chewing, he's like right into your mouth because he wants it. And
It's funny.
Tommy was never really interested in what you were eating or drinking. And at the time, you didn't think
Yeah.
anything of it. But now it's like maybe that's something that should have piqued my interest. But you know, you can't ever know, and
Yeah,
that's not necessarily to say that that's a sign that he had autism or not, but it's just interesting.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know, it just seemed like Bobby was very alert, like right away, right when he was born. He appeared to be like really, really alert. Um, which was interesting because it just
awesome.
like I felt like he just was like making eye contact all over the place right away. And that was something that we didn't always experience with Tom.
Excellent. Well, I love to hear that. And I'm so happy you got to experience that. And, experiencing both is really something. I mean, you talk about your fight and going through it. Really, you got to see the world from two different angles, having a child with nonverbal autism and then having a child who's fully healthy, and not saying, Tommy's not fully healthy, but, you are able to really experience life and the challenges that life has to offer, but see the beauty in both of it. So I commend you on that, and also that you found the perfect teammate to be in this is huge too. When you talk about your wife,
Yes, for
that's great.
sure, for sure.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. So
And in
now,
this aspect, she is the team lead because she is the expert. She knows all the answers to all the questions. Sometimes they ask me stuff and I'm like, I
yeah,
don't know. I do
yeah.
not know. I'm not sure. I'll ask Erica.
Excellent. I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's kind of when I first got diagnosed, I became like a cancer expert on like nutrition and different kinds of food that could fight cancer. So I have a feeling she did the same thing, it sounds like.
100%. Yeah. a
Yeah,
thousand percent. Yeah.
that's great. That's great. So now, in regards to trying to communicate with Tommy, are there like any tools or strategies or ways that you found that, okay, I can communicate with him this way, because I mean, are you thinking about sign language, or is it, I mean, yeah, just the communication. If you could explain that to me, how do you communicate with
Okay. So his receptive language has gotten very good.
him? Okay.
So he understands a lot of what we're telling him or asking of him. Um, his he's got an iPad that he can communicate on with a chat application. He's pretty good with that. But if I'm honest, we don't push it as much as we should at home because we're trying to get words.
Yeah,
Um, and
exactly.
and my
Help
wife
them
always
out.
she gets a little frustrated at times with the school because which is understandable
Yeah.
because the iPad as they really want to push that, and we're like, well, we want them to talk, and they're like, we understand.
Yeah.
I've never said this, but this my assumption is that like we understand, but we also need to make sure that he can communicate in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's got to be able to do this as well. He does do like he definitely does more. He can do the more sign, and
Okay.
he will do it appropriately. Um, and he's good at just take when he needs something coming to you. He'll look at you in his eyes to make eye contact. He does puh instead of saying please, but he will say puh in place of please. Take your hand, pull you, and try to guide you to what he needs. Um, so the communication level is minimal, but it's not zero.
Okay.
It appears to be growing more and more as we go.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah, well, that sounds. Yeah, I know you told me that sometimes he get very frustrated because he can't like, tell
Oh
people
yeah,
what
for
to do.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause- So, like, let me ask you about that. I mean, uh, what's it, what's it like, trying to be resilient in that, trying to roll with the punches and not get frustrated yourself, or because I know you had the mental challenges and the struggles in the beginning of trying to come to grips with it, but it's got to be frustrating not be able to, understand what your son's trying to tell you or really trying to, you know, make that connection that you're so badly seeking. I mean,
Mhm.
what's like what advice would I mean, what advice could you give other people who are kind of in that situation? They're like, man, I'm making no roads with my son. I could just make small communications with him, but I want to be able to talk to him. I want to be able to, explore with him. What would you say about that?
Um, well, for sure, it definitely the frustration level can get high for me as well too. And I don't know if you remember this, Danny, but I'm relatively easily frustrated at times. So
Yeah, I
um,
know.
so sometimes I have to just sort of like just walk away if he's getting very frustrated about something and we're in the den, then I just have him sit on the couch. I walk out of the room for 30 seconds, 15 seconds. I come back in, and we both try to reset and figure out what we got going on. But you have to maintain your composure.
Absolutely.
You have to, because that's not going to help. That's part of coming to grips with things.
Yeah.
Like me getting frustrated with him being frustrated is going to make him more frustrated.
No,
Which is going to
absolutely.
make me more frustrated. Which is
Yeah,
going to
no.
make him. It's going to just never end.
Yeah, no, I hear
Somebody's
you.
got to not be frustrated, and that's got to be getting nothing out of it.
Exactly.
So, but that's obviously easier said than done at times. But it is just something you have to maintain and keep in your mind.
Yeah. No, I hear you. No, I apologize to people out there if the connection's a little unstable. I don't know why. I don't know if there's a storm outside. I noticed it's breaking up a
Yeah.
little, but are you able to hear me clearly, T? Are you
Oh
able
yeah,
to?
I hear you. No
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
It's gotten a little glitchy at times over there, but it's coming
Oh,
through okay.
okay. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but just having some Wi-Fi issues. But yeah, we'll keep forging on. So now, in regards to what you just said, I could totally relate to that. But like on the other end of the spectrum, for you, not being frustrated when for me, it was the part when I had my stroke and trying not to scare my son because I was scared. I remember I looked at his face, and this is when I was, hallucinating and seeing strange things, and his face looked like it was smeared. And I had to prevent myself from recoiling, because I realized that it's not going to help if two people are scared, So I fully understand, just on the other end of the
Mm-hmm.
spectrum, is trying to control that emotion to try and not amplify the situation. Yeah. So
Yeah,
now,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Let me ask you.
You got to be the brave one always. You got to be the brave one.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you're breaking up a little. You still
Yeah.
there?
Sorry.
Okay. Sorry that the reception's going in and out. It's driving me crazy. May have to hop on their stream in a second, but uh, I don't see. Oh, there we go. Okay, you're coming in clearer now.
I'm
Okay.
still here. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. This is it's driving me on my end like crazy
Okay. Yeah,
right
you too.
now.
You were like frozen.
Yeah. Exactly. I know because 'cause I'm losing it on my end. I do
Oh,
not
I
know
bet it is. I bet it
connection.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's driving me crazy. So I know we kind of
Make sure
do.
you stay calm. We have to stay calm.
Exactly, exactly. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So now we spoke about some of the negatives. Can you tell me about some of like the milestones, some of the big like the things that just really make you smile, or some of the memories that you'll never forget that have just stuck with you about Tommy, and then even going on with Bobby.
Um, well, it was funny. So Tommy and I take Tommy to school every day during the week. So whenever we get to school, we fist bump. So when he's about to leave, I put it out. He bumps me back, and he goes. I like because it's like our thing. He doesn't do it with his mom or anything like that,
Yeah. Nice.
And the other day I was feeding Bobby, and he was sitting in his high chair, and he was done eating, and Bobby was just sitting there, and he was sitting there like this, and then I see Tommy's fist come over, and he fist bumps Bobby,
Oh, that's
and I'm
great.
like, beautiful, beautiful.
That's awesome.
Oh,
That
I
is
love it. But that is specific. It just there's not. I can't think of any real specific milestones off the top of my head that pop out in particular. But just I think back to Tommy at age 2,
yeah.
and I look at Tommy who is now going to be 7,
Yeah.
and I'm like blown away.
That's
I'm like
awesome.
blown away with how far he's come. Like his personality, he's such a goofball.
Yeah, you were
Um,
telling me that.
and that's stuck through. That's stuck through. But so much more of him is there now,
Yeah.
and he's even funnier. He's even funnier than I thought. I wish sometimes when he's laughing, I just wish I knew what he was laughing at.
That's funny. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this. So I know your family very, very well. We used to
Mhm.
basically go to your family reunions. So congratulations. I just saw you guys had another beautiful one. The
Uh-huh.
family has grown like crazy. Boy,
Yes.
it's
Yes, it
wild.
has.
How is it how is it when it's like your wife come with Tommy and interacting with the entire family as a whole? Is it like everyone's like, okay, well, we I mean, well, tell me, I don't want to
Oh,
guess. Yeah.
well, my both my sisters have a child on the spectrum as well.
Okay.
So at this point, it's like old hat in the
Oh,
family, everybody. And my family, even my extended family that all comes to the reunion. I mean, I was very lucky being born into the family that I was born into.
oh yeah.
How loving and caring everybody is, and again, including the extended family. Like it's not, it's like your typical
Yeah.
family, I guess, sort of, but
Yeah.
in reality, it's not. You know,
Yeah.
um, so everybody's been amazing always. Always.
That's awesome. You know, a story that I think of is when I think it was your Uncle Kyle and they adopted an Asian child. Uh, and I remember being at the
They have
family.
two. They have two.
Oh, they have two. That's right. And I remember being at the family reunion and him stepping off the side and kind of feeling like outcast, and the whole family just kind of flooded in and like just embraced them. It was just beautiful, you know. It was like,
Of course.
yeah,
Of
no.
course.
You know, TJ and I are very blessed that we come from some great stock, you
Yes,
know.
I know
Absolutely. Yeah.
I knew your family very well before you guys
Oh,
moved
oh,
to Vegas. Then unfortunately I never was able to make it out there, but
yeah, no,
uh
exactly. Yeah, we were a world away, it seemed like, especially that was right before technology with the cell phones and everything really caught on
I
because,
know, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We
yeah,
just missed it.
yeah, exactly. We did just
We're
miss it.
like just like a few years away, like 10 more years and
Yeah,
everything would have been.
yeah. But you know, I love that we had the time, me and you growing up, you know, without any of that. You know, just like I remember us creating our pitching rotations for like the Yankees and everything, like uh,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
on the ace, you know, you're the cleanup, things like that.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah, I wasn't all on
It's different. It's different. It's a different world back then, man.
oh yeah. Oh,
World
absolutely.
back then. Just walking. We just walk around for
Oh,
5 hours
exactly. Yeah, I don't know
on a
how I got.
Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't know how I got anywhere without a navigation system.
I
Thinking
know.
about
And
that.
also you walked really far. You lived like
Oh
in
yeah.
the outskirts of
Yeah,
town.
no, I did. Yeah, because I live past Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and so yeah,
Yeah.
like in Sleepy Hollow Manor. So yeah, it was. So I did. I remember. Yeah, I
I
would.
always wondered why you didn't take the train from Sleepy Hollow Manor to like Terrytown train
Well,
station.
I did. Remember when I got my skateboard, everything changed.
That's true.
Because
That's a good point. That's a
yeah,
good
because
point.
then I just loved it, you know, because I would just skate over, and that was
Yeah,
cool. And then and our parents would always one of them would always come pick us up, you know, when we were out late at night, things like
that's
that.
true. That's
Yeah,
very true. Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I mean, everyone, this is the guy I had my first beer with, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, so it's
At
great.
the
So
bleachers at some unnamed high school, we'll say.
exactly, exactly. And that actually, so our first one was we were at your house and your parents left, and we went to the
Oh
Greek
yeah.
restaurant. It was me and you. We went to the aqueduct, or no, that little green spot, and
Uh-huh.
we saw and we had our beer there, and then we went to the Greek restaurant, and I just remember it was like it was wild.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
was
Oh my God. I forgot we went to the Greek restaurant.
yeah, that was
Oh
our
my God.
first
Because
time.
tzatziki sauce.
Exactly, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
tiki sauce. That's right. So, Neil, let me ask you this. Looking ahead for your like your future aspirations, I want to talk about you and your filmmaking as well. But I just want one more question. Looking ahead, what are your hopes and dreams for Tommy? You know, how do you plan on supporting him, developing him, and what do you hope he finds? I mean, ultimately happiness, of course, but
Mhm.
on a more deeper scale, what do you hope for your son in the future?
Independent. I just hope that he can live independently. That would be the thing that would make me most happy
Awesome. I love it. I
for
love
sure.
it. I love it. Well, I hope I get to meet the little guy soon, and you know, and yeah, I still can't.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So now let's pivot because I unless you have
Okay.
any more unless you have anything that was unsaid that you would like to say about you know your fight with you know having a child with nonverbal autism about anything that I missed that you'd like to talk about.
I don't know. You did a pretty good job. I think you nailed pretty
Awesome.
much all the questions. I don't know. I don't
Awesome.
think I really have
Oh,
anything else.
excellent. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted to
No,
make
no,
sure
no. It's no
I'm not
problem at
dropping
all.
the ball on my end.
No, 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 not at all. No, I'm just trying to think. But you asked the real pertinent ones. So
Excellent. Excellent.
I kind of answered other things in those questions too. So I think I did cover everything for the most part. I'm sure something will come up at 3 o'clock this morning, and you'll get a text like, "We need to reschedule." No,
Exactly. Exactly. Let's do it again. Well, I mean, how with this reception issues, we may just have
no,
to,
we might
but
have to.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but okay, so now let's dive into some fun stuff. So now for people who don't know, so like, well, first of all, me and TJ were huge film guys, huge creative guys, big writers. But so my family really came from like a pretty big stock in that. Like my father, well, my grandmother, she was a songwriter, wrote songs for Broadway stars in like the early 1920s. And then my father was a scientist, but he loved the movies, so he actually worked for IBM and he developed a digital film printing process that kind of changed the whole film industry to win an Academy Award. And TJ would always come over. We would get the screenings. We'd always talk about the film,
Yes,
and it was
the
really,
Truman Show.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly,
remember
Truman
the
Show. And
Truman
it was really
Show.
my dad was such a wonderful guy. You could always talk to him about everything, and it kind of set the stage for me and TJ really like are really budding our interests. I remember him always looking at my dad's Academy Award and us talking about it. So uh, so let's talk about your filmmaking now, because that's super exciting. I mean, I love
Hmm.
it. And for the folks out there, as TJ always sends me his stuff to look at, I love playing a collaborative role with it. And I'm seeing you grow, TJ, and I am so impressed. And so let's
Thank
talk about
you.
your the first thing you put out there. What the first thing was it DoorDash?
What to do?
What
What
to
to do
do?
was the
Okay, yeah,
first
let's
thing.
talk
Yeah.
about that. Let's go through your filmography.
All right. So essentially, that was kind of an exercise, I guess. It was written anything, and uh, my friend Phil and freaking co-writer, um, he was starting to make waves a little bit in the comic world. He's produced quite a bit of content in comics, but he was sort of urging me on to write something that I should write. I should write. I should write. And so I did. I wrote that, and I wrote Tonight's the Night, which is my Dexter parody. And the whole thought was I had to write something that really only involved like two, max three people, because it's me and Phil that are going to be acting, and hopefully somebody else I can convince to try to do it. Because at this point, I have not done anything, nor does anybody know I had any idea that I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Um, so it was like, what can I do that has just these two bits? So it kind of was like he and I were spitballing a little bit one day, um, and he just kept suggesting things that I kind of didn't really like,
Yeah.
which sounds bad, but it happens all the time.
I
Um,
know that well. Yeah.
but it made me think about, like, two friends, and one guy, saying like, let's go do something, and then suggesting just a lot of really bad ideas. um, so then that's what it became. And then Phil had the great idea of ad-libbing, like, stuff from like the early 90s.
Yeah.
So he like referenced Sharper Image and Pogs and stuff like that,
Right. Totally.
which was a nice touch.
Yeah.
So that was like the genesis of that. And then it just ended up just being a small little fun short. These two guys
Yeah.
decide to go smoke a joint. The
Yeah.
guy comes up, they don't like, they run away, he catches them, they pretend to cough, because this was right during COVID. And then that makes the guy run off because he doesn't want to get COVID. So that was the end of that.
That's great.
But that was just, I with no intention of doing anything other than just the one, just for fun. But when I was editing it and putting it together, like something just like clicked or just went off in my head, and I was just like, this is
That's what I want to do.
so fun. Like, this is really enjoyable, and I want to make another one. So
Yeah.
I had written the two scripts, because Tonight's the Night was an idea I had years ago. Again, never did anything with, from watching the show Dexter. And I always thought it would be a funny premise if, like, the guy who played Dexter hosted Saturday Night Live. I'm like, that would be a great skit where
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole time it's this Dexter and you think he's a serial killer. And then when you get to the end, it turns out everything he's talking about is Dark Passenger and
Yeah.
hiding and not being caught. And it's just about
Yeah.
because he wants to go rub one out when everybody's asleep and
Yeah.
his wife and
Yeah.
kids are asleep in bed.
That's
Um,
funny.
I'm like, that would have been a great SNL skit. And so then we made that too. And then once that was like, I'm like, okay, so I really want to try and make some more stuff. And I was getting good feedback from people that feedback mattered to me, aside from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was
Absolutely.
important I was getting that. And so I wanted to keep going. And then it just has rolled. And my biggest goal is to just, each project I want to be bigger more
Yeah.
difficult to do and pushing myself further. And then making it, and that's the biggest part, is completing it, whether or not it ends up being any good or not. I mean, it matters. I want it to be good,
Oh yeah, of
but
course.
I gotta power through. There's one thing I've learned in starting to work with all these professional actors, is that they do a ton of stuff
Yeah.
that just never gets seen by anyone.
Oh,
Like, they tell
absolutely.
me about all kinds of footage and movies that they shot on, and shorts and stuff that they never saw any footage of. It's never got released, and they never heard from it again.
Yeah.
So when I do something, I try to make sure I complete it and finish it, so that for these actors who are volunteering their time with me, because
Yeah.
I have no money to pay anyone
Yeah. Yeah.
yet. But
Yeah,
they
exactly. That's how it
they
starts, though.
they're at very least they're giving me their time, and more importantly, their buy-in and their effort. The
Yeah.
least I could do is follow through and finish the damn thing. Um, so that's pretty much it. So now we're pushing forward to try to make my first feature.
Well, that's great. I mean, from an artist standpoint, because I'm a writer too. Uh,
Hmm.
I have so many. I've completed novels, and then I've gone back. I'm like, no, I need to redo this, and that's the thing. It's just, like, stuff's never end. And like it's fun to actually finally finish something. Like, I'm in the final stages of. I wrote it everything on my children's book for my son, How Eddie Put a Smile on the
Hmm.
Moon. So I'm just getting it illustrated right now. So it is fun to complete something. Now, I want to talk about three projects that you've done
Okay.
that are your staples so far. Like it's the thing that if I think about TJ Kiss as a filmmaker, I'm going to think about Renters, I'm going to think about Door Death, and now your new one, Necromance.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that, because Door Death was really the thing that I first saw. I was like, hey man, TJ's catching on to something. Yeah.
So DoorDeath was a lot of fun. DoorDeath Phil called me with. He was like, I have an idea for a short, and he told me it was a friend of his was doing DoorDashing, and the instructions asked him to go to the corner of the street and put the box of pizza on the corner and leave it there and leave. And so he did that and left. And Phil was like, but
Yeah.
what if
What a
something else happened? And then we talked on the phone for about a half hour straight about walking through this whole process and this story. And then I went home and I typed it out and I expanded upon it a little bit. Um, and then we went as far as to cast and go. And so I reached out to Steve Lewis, who I went to high school with and was a stand-up comedian, and I knew he was acting and doing some stuff with trauma, and was with somebody. He was somebody I had sent some stand-up material I wrote to, scripts I had written to, because his feedback, meant a lot to me. And I'm like, you got to be this guy. You got to be
yeah.
in DoorDash for me. And so he was. He did a great job. We got that into the upstate New York Horror Film Festival. But it turns out I couldn't go to that because I was shooting a different short with Steve that day that it was going to be airing. And then it got on the Trauma Now app, which was pretty cool.
Excellent.
So that was DoorDash, which was basically, as I just sort of described, this guy gets an order.
Yeah.
Um, Instructions ask him to take it to this old train station and leave it there and not wait and just go. And of course, he doesn't. He waits, he looks. As he leans forward, he hits the horn. The two guys notice him, and then they terrorize him a little bit before he ends up being found in the trunk of his car.
Yeah, and he reaches his demise. That's right.
That's right,
So
of
excellent.
course.
Now I know Renters was your it was like I can think of it from a writer standpoint, like your novella. It wasn't a full feature, but it was like it was close to. It was a good feature. It was a short film. Let's talk about Renters, because I know that got a lot of good buzz, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, so
What
Renters.
made you take that leap? Yeah, from going to a small short like Door Death to Renters.
Well, again, so it was following that. So after DoorDath, I made a short series called Scary Monsters. So then the next step was like, okay, next I want to make is a short film. Now, at this time, when I had written Renters, I was also contacted by a writer who had written a short film called Necromance that he wanted me to direct, which we're going to circle back to and get
Oh,
back to that.
excellent.
So the Renters basically, um, the first thought on that was location. So I'm very lucky to happen to have access to two beautiful houses on the Jersey Shore. Um, and I thought, well, this is a location that I need to use because it's going to cost me nothing. I can use it as lodging for the actors who need to come down. And so how am I going to do this? And so I thought about the two houses. So one house was washed away in Hurricane Sandy, and had to get rebuilt. And so they rebuilt it with, the places in like Pennsylvania, the big warehouses where they build the houses in like three parts, drive it and put it together right there like a bunch of Legos. So that's what one house is. And the other house just had to get a little reworking done, but it didn't get condemned. So that house still looks like the same house that's been there since like, the 50s.
Oh,
So you have this really old house. It looks like a home, very homey feeling, even the way it's decorated and stuff. And then you have another home that looks like essentially a vacation home or a rental property.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, there is something here.
yeah,
So of course we're going to take some locals and put them in
yeah,
the nice old house.
yeah,
And we're going to have to bring some kids or guys, some people, group of friends up to rent the other house, and then we got to have something happen. So I certainly did that. That was the plan. When writing that, I did try to, and I did the same thing when I was rewriting Necromance, is I didn't really look at where I was going to go as far as how long of a picture was going to be, how many pages of script was going to be. My goal was to just write a good story. And so once I got to 30, I don't know, I think it was 37, 38 pages, I was pretty happy with the story and was like, that seems like the appropriate length for the next project. 6 minutes being the longest, to jump to 35 is pretty huge,
oh yeah,
and
no, absolutely.
also attainable. And so that's when, again, I had met Sean Clark, the writer of the Necroman short film, and we started talking, and he wanted to make that. And I suggested we make a proof of concept short.
Yeah,
And then, because I was not going to be able to shoot renters, edit renters, get renters done, and then work on Necromance as a short film or anything like that. So
yeah,
I presented him, let's make this little proof of concept short. And then at the same time, let's rework this story and let's try to make it into a feature. So then I took his story and I did rework it. I added some characters. I definitely lengthened it and took some different directions. I
yeah,
sent it back to him for his feedback. He sent it back to me. And now we are in the process of trying to make the first feature, which I think is probably going to run around an hour and 20 or
yeah,
so. Which again, I think that's appropriate. And then that's it. I'm not going to make any 4-hour epics, I don't think.
yeah, yeah.
So for now, this is pretty good, and this will be a good stepping stone project, hopefully.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I love that. So, I mean, we are closing in on an hour. So, but what I want to give you the chance, TJ, just to, tell people where they could see your content, where they could find
Sure.
you, where they could follow you. Because I know there's going to be a lot more stuff coming, and I always, we're always close, so I always know what's going on. But for those other people out there, what
Yeah.
can they expect from this Mr. Chutzpah?
Um, so yeah, so you should, if you want to follow me, the best place to follow me is going to be on Instagram. So it's KIGB Kiss It Goodbye Productions. That's where I do most of my notifications for anything, for projects, casting calls, whatever it might be. I am currently finishing up my application for a crowdfunding campaign with a group, with a company, and once that's out there, I'll be putting that up there on Instagram and on Twitter, X. I'm sorry, no
Oh yeah,
longer Twitter,
X
on
now, yeah,
X. I just was looking for it earlier on my
that's
phone.
right.
I'm like, where is it? And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's X now. That's
Exactly.
at tkiss24.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, I missed
And
it.
yeah, so keep a lookout for that stuff. I said on X it's at tkiss24. Instagram is KIGB Productions. So keep an eye out for the crowdfunding campaign.
Excellent. And I'll include all of that in the link as well, everyone. So in the description, so you'll be able to easily find that. It's one thing. It's funny is because I heard you didn't mention Threads with Mark Zuckerberg. So for those of you who don't know, my
Oh yeah,
novel is named Threads, and it was a novel I've been writing for years, and I finished it a bunch of times. I've gone back. I have like thousands of pages. Eventually, it'll be out. But when but the character is called Thread. So when Mark Zuckerberg came up with that, I'm like, hey, I have that way earlier,
that's
man.
mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's mine because I mean, you can even go on my Twitter. I remember when I was writing, I was like, I believe in threads more than anything, and that was way before Mark
You
Zuckerberg.
should go back onto your X
Yeah, on
and
my X. Yeah,
find that, I don't know what they call them. I guess that the X, they don't call them
yeah,
tweets anymore. I don't know, whatever it was, that
yeah. I know.
screenshot it and post that on your threads and be like,
I
see,
know.
I
I
told
need
you.
to actually. You know, that's a good idea. I will. I will. Awesome. Awesome. All right, buddy. Hey, man, it was so great having you on. I love
Thank
catching
you,
up
man,
like
for having me.
this.
Thank you.
Uh,
And I think what you're doing is amazing. I think you're amazing, and keep fighting, man.
Awesome, man. Same with you. Keep up the fight, and we'll always stay in touch. And everyone, thank you so much for joining. Please look for TJ online. I will attach his stuff in the description as well, so you have easy access to it. And yeah, and check out some of his work. It's fun for sure. All right.
I think so. Yeah. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. I like that. All right, guys. So as always, keep up the fight and have a good night. Thank you, guys.